Hivin and Vibin with Dr. Bibi.
How are you all doing today? We have with us today Lisa Apolinski. She is known as an America's digital content futurist. What an amazing title to have. We have lots of questions to ask on that now. And she is an international author, a speaker who helps professionals become industry authorities through strategic content and brand development. With over 30 years of marketing experience, including Fortune 500 experience, she has helped clients generate over 1.5 billion in new revenue through her guidance. Lisa has authored 5 books, including the globally recognized Persuade with a Digital Content Story and her latest work, The Greatest Personal Brand Story Ever Told. Her expertise in digital storytelling and small business marketing growth has been featured in Forbes and the New York Times. Lovely. I have a star here. Lisa, welcome to Hivin and Vibin with Dr. Bibi.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited for our conversation.
Oh, am I? So am I. So am I. Lisa, first of all, tell me about how did you get this title, America's Digital Content Futurist?
Oh, so the year was 2017, and I got a book for Christmas called How to Grow Your Consulting Practice. And I thought, wow, that's amazing. That's a good book to have because I had a consulting practice. And the authors are Henry DeVries and Mark LeBlanc. And Henry DeVries had his information in the back, and he at that time was a Forbes writer. And I was able to connect with him, and I actually met him in person. I actually was in Oceanside, met him in person. Should have been a 30-minute coffee chat that turned into a 3-hour discussion. And that was my first Forbes write-up, where he wrote about me and he dubbed me America's Digital Content Futurist, just from the conversation that we had. And I didn't realize at the time I was actually practicing my authority power. Didn't have a name to it, just showed up. And, I have a big mouth and I'm not afraid to use it. So I just did that.
Lovely. That must have been a moment for you when you realized that the coin dropped and that you had this invisible power in you. So that leads to my
Yes.
next question. How did you develop this power? What was the journey in developing this power?
So, we were talking earlier about how there are things within us that are just innate, that we just have to allow to let go and let out. I believe authority power is the same way. My newest book that I'm working on now, book number 6, is Unleash Your Authority Power. And I'm very intentional with my language. It's not build your authority power. It's not create your authority power. It's unleash. And I say that purposefully. Everyone has an area of genius that is waiting to get out if you get out of the way. So it's not about developing it, it's about really letting it go and having it shine. I love doing movie references now and having people picture a movie reference. So if you think about the superhero a young superhero who doesn't know the powers that they have, and we all know because, like Superman or whatever, and they're in an impossible situation and the odds are stacked against them, right? And all of a sudden, their superpower is just out and it is fabulous and everything changes in that moment. I help my clients get there. because everyone has that authority power that if you just, instead of trying to fit into a box, try to figure out the latest trend, mute it because you're not quite sure who will show up. If you stop doing those things and simply stand for your authority power, it comes out naturally. And like we were talking about, a lot of times we're told, oh, you need someone to develop it, or you need someone to teach you how to. No. If it's a natural power within you, all you have to do is let it go.
Fantastic. Okay, so then one I understand is letting it go is one of your mantras already, which I've caught on. Correct me if I'm wrong, but what
Absolutely.
would be your other mantras? What are your mantras?
Yeah, my other mantra, and it's funny, I call them magic words and phrases. So they're quips of things that you can say that tie back to your authority power. So one of my other ones is think big and act bigger. Think big, act bigger. Because when you are an authority, you don't have to go after small clients or play it safe. You go after where you know you can have the most impact and most influence. And when you're playing that type of a game, you automatically are having those types of clients attracted to you. So that's one of my other mantras. Another one that I say is I live in the world of multiple right answers, because I do. There is no one way to do something. And you and I were talking about authorship. There's a million ways to become an author. One way is not necessarily the right way or a wrong way. It's whatever works for you in the moment to showcase and let people experience your authority power. If you're always thinking about it through that lens, you really can't go wrong.
Fantastic. So think big and envision bigger. That is
Yeah.
amazing. Unleash yourself. That's another one. That's amazing. So, how did that happen in you? How did you become the leader that you are today?
So when I first started in the Fortune 500 world in corporate America, I assumed everyone simply showed up in one area and claimed it. I honestly didn't know another way of being. I was raised in a family business. My parents ran a drugstore, and my father practiced it every day. He practiced authority power every single day. And I just thought everybody did it, because what did I know? And when I started in corporate America and, you know, making sure I knew what my area of genius was and making sure that I helped people through that lens, your reputation skyrockets. And I would have presidents of the company, board members, well, their secretaries call me and say, we'd like to ask you a couple questions about this or that, and knew who I was. And you're talking entry level position, and yet I'm having a conversation with the CEO or CFO. And again, I thought that was just what everybody did. I didn't know any better. And I found out when I got yelled at a lot that that was not the norm in corporate America. And I knew I still wanted to practice that. I didn't have a term for it, but I knew that's what I wanted to be. That's how I wanted to serve. And that's how I wanted to have impact and influence. And 13 and a half years ago, 2012, I went out on my own, started my own agency. And yesterday, I can't believe I'm saying that, but yesterday I joined a larger firm because of that authority power. So I am now a partner and editor-in-chief at Indie Books International. And because I made sure that I showed up in my area of genius, I made sure that my authority power was not muted or dampened. I just let it go. That allowed these types of conversations, relationships, and ultimately opportunities come to me, which has been fantastic. It's a new chapter for me. I have a boss now, Dr. Beebe. I haven't had a boss in almost 14 years. I had to fill out employee paperwork. I had to do a W-4. I haven't done that in 14 years. I'm like, uh-oh, how do you fill this out? But that's great. Everything is a new adventure.
Right. So now that you're stepping into a new role, what are those leadership attributes which you're going to carry with you?
First and foremost, the leadership attribute that I will always carry, whether I have my own agency or I'm a partner in another, is a leading with service. So it's not me telling people what to do and being in charge. It's me bringing my authority power and helping others to get to their success point. This has been something I have always practiced. I always will practice. And whether I'm working with an author or a client or a speaker, I want to make sure that my focus is always on their success. That is paramount to me. It's not about me. Your authority powers actually has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with who you serve and the outcomes they get from the engagement. And that will always be my number one focus.
Amazing. Right. And so let's talk about when you first realized that you can lead people other than, what you just described, and when you said that, you would get calls from the secretaries and from the board members and CXOs, etc. What was your journey within you, the journey inside you, when you realized that that is the external world telling you that, hey, Lisa, you are now in a position where we can seek guidance from you, or we can ask you questions, to help us. But what was that journey that was happening inside you?
So when I was working in the Fortune 500s, I always had in the back of my mind, and I wish I could go back in time and tell myself to not do that. But something I always had in the back of my mind was, well, you're only a fill in the blank. You're only a marketing specialist. You're only a marketing manager. You're only a marketing director. And so I certainly showed up with authority, but I also had that, I don't know if you want to call it baggage or just a consideration that sometimes made me a little afraid to show up with full authority. When I went on my own, and it's funny, the way you said it, I actually could envision the moment that it happened for me. When I went on my own for my agency in 2012, I was also asked to join an Olympic consideration committee. So it was in San Diego, and they were planning on trying to apply for the Olympics, the Summer Olympics. And I was invited to join this team of like amazing individuals, all authorities in their own right. And I was asked to join this. And for a second, I was like, wait, do I belong at this table? And then I was like, yeah, I do, because I do have an area of genius and I do have something of value to bring. And it was, in essence, me stepping outside of a ceiling and seeing the sky. and going, that's your potential. That's your impact. And it took me stepping out on my own to almost feel empowered to step outside of the ceiling that I put there. No one put that there but me. I'm the one that put that ceiling there. And I was acting as if it was tied to a structure and it was immovable. And by stepping outside of it, I was like, oh, there is a different way of being. And having that moment really brought clarity to my leadership and to knowing that I could impact my clients without having to, be aggressive or be rude or, act like I knew everything. Because I'll tell you right now, we were talking earlier, there are stuff that I'm sure I'm not going to know. You're going to ask me questions about certain things, and I'm going to go, I have no idea. And that is okay. It is okay to not have all the answers. What is important is you continue to learn, you continue to explore, and you continue to really move that needle forward. One of my other mantras is digital marketing, learning, relationships, engagement. They're all like a climb with no summit. Wherever you are, you still have 100% to go. So just keep going.
Amazing. I love that. Just keep going. That is because that is one of my mantras too. But you picked up something which is something that I work on and I work with my clients on is the inborn leadership, something that you're born with, which you have been speaking about. And I want to ask, when you were a child, let's go back to the child, when Lisa was a child, did you do or were there experiences in your life where you knew that, okay, here I can lead?
I would say I was a very, I don't want to say I was a mature child, but I definitely looked at things through a different lens. I am I am someone who looks at rules and says, well, why are they there? I have always been that person. Not that let's just break them all, because some rules absolutely have to be in place. But some rules we self-impose for no reason other than, but that's how it's always been. And I have always been the person who has pushed against that. And I think that is one of my strengths as a leader, that status quo, the way we've always done it, okay, but why? And if you can't answer the why, then you have the ability to change what you are doing. You have the ability to create possibility so that something that you think, well, that will never move or never change, is not quite true anymore. And I am so thankful that my parents encouraged that. They didn't say, no, you have to fit the norm and you have to stay in your lane. And no. And because we ran a drugstore and it was all hands on deck, I had to learn customer service, relationships, how to talk to adults, how to deal with an upset customer. I got to learn that at the age of 10. And being able to be okay with it and, work with the customer and listen to them, but also know, well, why did you feel that should have happened that way? Or what was behind this belief that the experience should have been X when it was actually Y? And, being able to really get into that. And also, when you're young, you kind of just do things, right? And you don't have a lot of fear. And because my parents definitely encouraged us to explore and to do these things and to work outside the triangle, as it were, it wasn't, well, you're only 10 or you're only in grade school or you're only a girl or you're, again, self-imposed limitations. Those were never our conversation. And I think that really helped me to understand what I could do and to allow endless possibility within that.
Lovely. Yeah. I do get that. I get that. I get your, what you're saying, that, you just, because you had a drugstore, you did things that you were doing. And before this, you mentioned that, you just saw your father doing stuff and you felt that that's how it's done. That is one of the advantages of having an upbringing that, gives us the security and also the pathway to shape us in the way that we become today. Fantastic.
Absolutely.
I find that there are so many learnings to take from here. And at the same time, I would like to know, how do you sustain yourself now that, you've been working, you worked in corporate, then you came and did your own stuff for 14 years, and you did that for some time now. And now again, you're going back where you have a partnership and you're now going to lead something. And how do you find yourself sustaining your energy?
So one of the things that I now practice, and I will say I practice it imperfectly, although I do try to do it. One of the first things that I do is I am part of the 5 a.m. club. I've always been a morning person, and I find when I am up at 5 or 5:30, again, I imperfectly practice it, I have time to invest in myself. So that is walking. I walk my dog every morning. I listen to audibles, and not just business books. You can listen to other things. It is okay. My best friend, her daughter is in AP English, and she has several books that she has to read. And so I've been listening to them. There's a free app, you know, The Awakening, books like that. So classics, and listening to them as an audible as I'm walking. It's about a 30-minute listen, and the walk is about 30 minutes. And then we actually have a conversation around it. So I'm actually exploring literature that I haven't touched in quite some time. So I definitely do that. I make sure that I get enough sleep. I make sure that I eat healthy. I make sure that I'm taking mental breaks throughout the day. That, to me, that will never change. And making sure that I focus on myself first. It's kind of the whole put your mask on yourself before you help others on the plane is the same thing. If you don't take care of yourself, it's very hard to take care of anything else, let alone lead. So that's first and foremost. The other thing that I'm thinking about, and I'm not quite sure how to do it, and again, I will probably imperfectly execute on it, and I'm okay with that. I am a huge believer in having conversations and building relationships. Anyone who connects with me on LinkedIn, I try my darndest to have a coffee chat, a virtual chat with them if I can. Just because their stories are so compelling and unique and interesting. And it's like getting a new friend every day, and it's super enjoyable. And I'm probably going to have to watch how much time I'm doing on that, because I will have lots of other responsibilities that I will have to do. But I want to make sure that stays part of my practice, because connecting with people, talking with people, learning about them, learning how I can support them. I love doing it. It sustains me. It lifts me up. It adds to my energy for sure. So those, and again, a little bit about me, which is okay. The other thing that I definitely want to do on top of writing books, so I will always do that, because I feel that getting my authority out to the masses and letting people experience me in a different way, whether it's in a book or listening to my voice on Audible, is amazing. And I also want to make sure in that I am also speaking. Again, probably will imperfectly execute, and I might not be able to do as much speaking as I've done, in years prior, but I want to make sure that I'm out there, and it's all about sharing that authority and helping others move the needle toward their success point.
Fantastic. Yes. I am uh so very, like I got into my own reflection while I was, thinking of, while you were saying, and I was thinking, okay, so this is how Lisa is going to, sustain herself, and she's planning to. And what I really liked about what you said is that I'll do it imperfectly if possible, but I will do it. That is one of the best sentences that I've heard, because we are all trying to achieve, we are striving, we are perfectionists. We are not people who are,
Yes,
doing stuff to the 100% best, but let's start working on it. Let's just
that's
start
right.
doing it. That's the
That's
best
right.
part of what you've just said, Lisa,
Yeah,
which I take, with 100% acceptance, that this is what we need to do. We really, really need to just start acting on it rather than trying to be
yes,
perfect and trying to do something which is 100% best and all that stuff. Be imperfect, but do it. That's the most
yes.
important part. How would you like my audience and my listeners to connect with you?
Fastest way to do it, because I'm still trying to remember my email address. I have a new email address, is to connect. Yeah. Again, imperfectly executing. It's all good. Connect with me on LinkedIn. Please, 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 please connect with me on LinkedIn and subscribe to my newsletter. I give away so much free stuff. It's almost criminal. And I do want to say, the whole imperfectly execute, I had to let go of that as well. But I will say this: if you are getting ready to get ready, if you are in love with your potential, you're missing the opportunity to have impact and influence. And it is okay to fail in a catastrophic way. It's actually okay. And we are our own worst critics. So I've heard, I had a client say to me, oh, well, I need to have my website completely ready to go and done in order to launch for my new services and my speaking career. And I'm like, okay, so you think that if your website isn't perfect, a meeting planner will go, well, I'm not hiring this person. I got booked for my first dozen with no website. I had nothing. I didn't have a one sheet. I didn't have a speaker reel. I didn't have anything. And yet I got booked. We put things in our own way to block us from moving forward. And then we say, oh, well, no, 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 I have to have this done. That seems reasonable. I got to have that done. So yeah, imperfectly executing. It's better to move than to try to go for perfection. Absolutely.
Lovely, lovely.
Yeah, yeah. But yes, please connect with me on LinkedIn. Please subscribe to my newsletter. And yeah, I mean, and if you are up for it, let's have a 20-minute coffee conversation, and just see how I can support you, because that's really what my mission is: to support others in their quest for success.
Lovely. I am so amazed with, with the little nuggets of wisdom that you have strewn all through the interview, all through this conversation that we have had. And it is so amazing, because I hope that this will empower my audience and my listeners. It's been amazing. Thank you so much, Lisa, for being a part of Hivin and Vibin with Dr. Bibi. You've given us so much information, so much knowledge, so much wisdom, that I hope this will enrich my audience's lives. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.